Good evening out there, everybody. Here we are, your co-host Gregory Down and Scott Cole, bringing you another edition of Rocky Mountain Sports Reports in the Crease coverage, covering Colorado Avalanche hockey and NHL hockey news from around the world. It's been 2 weeks since our last show, Greg. You went to the CSU game last week, and I went driving, doing my job for 12 hours. How was the game last week?
It was fun. It was fun. CSU is definitely not as good as I was hoping, but it was fun nonetheless. It's been a long time since I've been to a college game, so definitely a lot of fun. And both my parents are CSU alumni, so it was good to get up there with them and hearing all the stories of, oh, I remember when these dorms weren't even here, and this building wasn't here, and this was over. And it's like, this is fun. I love stories like this. So.
Bro, we can literally go around Boulder, Fort Collins, Longmont, downtown Denver, Aurora, and be like, I remember when all this was just a field.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been quite the transformation to see what the whole state of Colorado has gone through in the last decade and a half, almost the last 2 decades since I've been here, since moving out here in 2002. It's just incredible to see it and everything. But we're going to talk some hockey and get going here. First things first, the Avs wrapped up the month of October with a 4-4-0 record, getting 8 points. And they started November not off with the best of starts, but they were missing several key players. Devin Tays was out. Mikko Rantanen was out. They started, I believe Johansson started that Columbus game here in town.
Yeah, he sure did.
But they battled back. I mean, if you missed the last 3 minutes of that game, which I did because I was bowling at the time, but I went back and watched it. Holy crap. That is what the Avalanche are capable of doing on a nightly basis, is putting pressure on a team in short periods of time and putting up a number of goals. So if you missed the end of that game against the Columbus Blue Jackets, go and watch that. Mm-hmm. The overtime goal that Columbus got leaves us both kind of irked just a little bit. You don't expect such a big mistake from such a key veteran piece of your offense in overtime.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So what ended up happening was 3-on-3, obviously we're in overtime. Columbus has the puck in their offensive zone, in our defensive zone. Puck comes up the boards, and Nazem Kadri decides to kind of take off like he's suddenly going to get a breakaway. Problem is the puck is completely in Columbus's control. So he ends up skating right past the dude that he should have been defending, who they ended up just getting the puck over right into the center of the zone, who could just skate right down the slot and take an easy shot for the game-winning goal. And yeah, you don't expect to see that from someone who, like you say, I mean, we're talking about a veteran presence. We're talking about someone who knows the game very well. I mean, for all the issues that Kadri can have and that people can point out, not really being there, not really, knowing what's going on isn't one that I've ever seen come from him. That's kind of what bugs me so much about this play, is that this isn't a Kadri kind of play. It's not a boneheaded cheap shot. It's not a being too selfish with the puck. Like it was a play that he doesn't do. Like it was really strange. And yeah, unfortunately ended up leading to the Avs losing that game in overtime. But man, as you were saying, the last 3.5 minutes of that regulation time of third period, holy crap. I was in here screaming, yelling, jumping around,
blowing up my phone.
Last, yeah, I'm over here on our group chat, just oh my god, and it was amazing. Like, that's what I love so much about hockey, is just how quick everything can happen and just in such big explosive ways.
Yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the phone, like the message chat is blowing up, my Twitter's blowing up because you're posting like every 30 seconds something new's happening with the game, and I'm just like, good God, I really got to go back and watch this. And I mean, it's been great. Avalanche are on the road tonight. They're just starting the second period. It's tied 1-1. And so, some pieces are back. Mikko Rantanen's back in the ice. Devin Tays is finally on the ice for the Avs, slotting into that second pairing on the defensive side, as Cale Makar and Bowen Byram have proven to be just fantastic skating with each other. And I'm going to jump to that real quick because I got to hit this while it's fresh, is a couple of things. Bowen Byram currently sits third in the rookie points, 3 goals, 5 assists. With 8 total so far. I believe he's only 2 behind the leader in that category. and that is Lucas Raymond of the
Detroit. He's having a heck of a
New
season
Jersey.
for the Red Wings.
Lucas Raymond with Detroit, and then Moritz Seider, who was defenseman for Detroit as well. So Detroit, I mean, we're already starting to see the Steve Yzerman experience happening in Detroit with some of these young rookie players that he's drafting and bringing into that organization. So I'm, let's hope for a reshuffle of the, divisions and bring Detroit back over to Central so we can, renew that rivalry,
That is exactly where my head was just at. Like, I am so sad that it's not the Avs in Detroit having this crazy rivalry anymore. Because, my God, especially with it being Joe Sakic and Steve Yzerman now in GM positions.
Building these teams, man, that would just be fantastic to see on a regular basis. Except we only get to see them twice, once here, once there. I mean, that's going to be those are going to be good matchups coming down the road. And I expect with Yzerman at the helm in Detroit for them to be back. But back to what I was talking about in general, Bowen Byram sitting there in third with 8 points and doing his job as a rookie. Not only is he putting up points, he's gotten a point, I think 8 points in 9 games that the Avs have played so far. And Kemper's just standing on his head right now. Holy crap. That was an insane, and just that camera view that we had on that was just so impressive.
Yep.
But Byram's got 8 points in 9-10 games right now, but he's also doing that, and he's putting up significant time on ice. 9 games, he has an average of 20 minutes and 55 seconds of ice time. He's averaged 24 minutes in the last 4 games alone, and Cale Makar leads the entire team with 25 minutes of time on ice per game, which is just incredible. And Kaiser's right. It's great to have Berkey back on the ice as well. That was another key piece that was missing. But let's talk about this tag team duo of Bo Byram and Cale Makar.
Absolutely. I mean, just looking at the time on ice, we're going to forget the points for a minute just because they can obviously be a little skewed one way or the other, depending on, kind of who you're going up against, what the opposing team is, how good their goalie is, that type of stuff. The time on ice, the thing that means so much to me is this absolutely proves just how much Bednar and the coaching staff just believes in who Bo Byram is. To take a 20-year-old rookie who played, what do you end up playing? There's a couple of games last season due to injury.
Yeah, played like 5-6 games last year because of injury, I believe.
Yeah, and to throw him into these situations, especially because it's not just the 20-minute, essentially 21 minutes per game. It's the fact that time is important time. I mean, he was out there for having Johansson
19 games last season for Bo Byram.
I gotcha. He was out there for Johansson being pulled on both of the goals in the last game. He's out there on power plays. He's out there on penalty kills. Like, they look at Byram and say, yes, this is a dude who we believe can actually make a difference on this team. And that is absolutely insane thinking about who we have on this defense. And we're talking about Eric Johnson, who is, the longest tenured player in Colorado right now, not just for the Avs, but in the state of Colorado. Beats out Charlie Blackman, was beating out Von Miller. It's insane to think that as a 20-year-old kid, they're looking at him and saying, yep, you're the one who's going to be out there for a majority of the time, but also a majority of the important time.
And I have to agree with you. But not only that, I mean, we talked about this last year, just looking at the size and build of Bo Byram and what he looks like this year compared to last year. Like, he's a different kid from what he was last year with the Avs. Last year he came up, he was a little timid, was kind of doing his job as a defenseman, clearing the puck out of his zone. But now you want to fight? Let's go. He's got that edge to him a little bit. He's not afraid to step up and stare an opposing player down and being like, I'm gonna do my part. Darren Helm back in the penalty box. I think it was a hooking call this time. Clear. Yep.
Yeah, unfortunate. It was a battle for
the puck.
There
it is. Right there. Battle for the puck. Got a stick on the stick. That's going to happen. Yep. But Bo Byram, is and will be the replacement in the captaincy rankings on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Johnson, like we said, he's the longest tenured Avalanche. He's the longest tenured Colorado professional athlete out of all of them. But I firmly believe that Bo Byram is the future A on the defense of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Once Eric Johnson leaves or gives it up. So I look forward to seeing Bo Byram's career just explode and be fantastic. I sincerely hope he goes forward and is nominated for the Calder Trophy this year, because preseason, his name was not mentioned at all.
No, not at all. He very much is overlooked. And to be honest, I can kind of understand it, as a league that is very focused on the offensive side of the puck, is very focused on stats and goals and assists and all the good stuff. You weren't really expecting Bo to be that dominant in that category, which is
especially after what I just 19 games last year, only 4 points.
Right.
Here we are, 9 games, 10 games into the season, and he has 8 points already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
nobody expected that, and I don't think anybody expected, 2 Detroit players to be sitting atop the rookie rankings right now. So that's something else to consider.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just impressive what he's doing and how he's doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely right. And, I 100% agree with you. I think that once the time comes where EJ either hangs up the skates or ends up on another team, I absolutely believe that Bo is who's going to end up with the A on his chest, simply because, as amazing as Cale Makar is, as much as I adore the man, wearing his jersey, I always do. He doesn't really have that mentality. As we've talked about before, he's kind of soft spoken. He lets his play speak more for himself and for the team than he does with his mouth. And, Byram's the other way, and we're talking about the dude who was the captain for Canada for the World Junior Championships this past season. He knows what it takes to lead. He knows what it takes to get his team going, to get everybody riled up, and to get on a same page. And that's going to be, extremely necessary once EJ's gone.
Ooh, that was a little questionable. I thought it got the corner, but I maybe a little misspoken. But you speak of him wearing the C for the World Juniors. If he keeps playing the way he's playing, he may steal a spot on Team Canada come in the Winter Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
On defense for them. So I'd like to see him make the jump up to Team Canada in the first opportunity heading into the Winter Olympics in February. So we'll see how that goes as well.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that was a huge penalty kill for the Avs right there. That was
now we're going to go back on the power play.
Penalty coming up against Columbus. Looks like a cross check or a trip on Landeskog in front of the net there. So Avs are going to go on the power play. Looks like they're going to probably take a commercial break here, I would think. But I mean, way to attack the net after killing off a penalty with your top line out on the ice right there.
Oh, exactly. There's that post. Ooh, man.
Boom.
Ooh.
It looks like Taze tipped that.
Mm-hmm. He might have.
Looks like Taze got a stick on it, tipped it, and it hit the post after the tip. If Taze didn't tip that, that was probably going in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, baby. Oh.
Like Kaiser said, way to draw a penalty right there.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, Rantanen's in the zone, man. He just needs to get it in.
Yep.
So here's the other thing that fans are saying. We've seen this a lot in the last. Nice save by Kemper right there. Fans are saying we want McDonald. We want Jacob McDonald on this team. We've been saying it for the last season.
Mm-hmm.
He looks great. Plays very well with the rest of the team, has great chemistry with everybody. But here's the issue, guys. Salary cap and moving players around. If you want Jake McDonald on this team, where do you free up the money? Based on this game right here, his name's Darren Helm. But Darren Helm's been centerman, and you brought up a very great point, and I'm gonna let you hype on this a little bit. I've been screaming for Sam Girard to be traded, but you're talking about a position change.
Absolutely. So, one thing that has come up a lot in Avs country, a lot, especially from, kind of the more negative side of Avs country, because we all we all know how vocal they can be. A lot of people bring up the fact that Sam Girard really doesn't have the size. He doesn't have the physicality of a defenseman. He doesn't have that thing that makes forwards kind of scared coming down against him. And it's something that I absolutely agree with, and it can be a problem, but a lot of times you can kind of offset that, and he does in a lot of ways with his stick work, and with the way that he can break the puck out. He's very, very smart when it comes to the flow of play. But the problem that you run into is, he's a little dude. There you go, Kaiser. It's exactly what I'm getting to. Yes, move Sam Girard up to wing. Make him a playmaker. Make him somebody that deals with the fact that his stick and his speed is the best part of his game. Use that in a position where that's much more reliable, much more useful than it is on the defensive side of the puck. So the problem you run into there is, he can get his stick in passing lanes. He can poke check away. When you need him to step up, he's not stepping up. And that is something that defensemen really need. And it's something that you end up seeing from people like Bo Byram, Cale Makar, especially EJ, Jack Johnson, those guys, is that if they need to step up, they will. It's something they struggled with a little bit during the start of the season. You can see it kind of, fading away now, which is nice to see. But you just do not see it with Sammy G. And the issue that I have is he's a good player. So like I understand the call for trading, and to be completely honest, this is something we actually talked about before we started. I'm not completely opposed to that. If you're going to, definitely get him on the trade block, hear some offers, see what you can get, and then take obviously the best offer if it's called for. Mikko's on a breakaway. Elvis with some saves.
Elvis is on point tonight.
Yeah, he is. He's playing well. But yeah, exactly. He would be much more beneficial on a wing because of that ice vision, because of the hands. He's got a great wrist shot. Use that. Put him in a position where that's much more useful than it is up top. He doesn't have the seeing eye ability that Cale Makar and Bo Byram have proven to have. He's got the much more, kind of quick snap, get it off from the circles or lower kind of shot. Use that in a position where he's able to do that much more often and much more effectively.
Yeah, and right now would be the perfect time. Within these next 3 years, you've got Sam Girard locked up for another 6 years,
right?
Including this season, because he signed a 7-year, $35 million contract with the Colorado Avalanche back on July 31st of 2019. But that's a $5 million a year hit for a defenseman who isn't stepping up and taking a hit to the body, forcing guys. He doesn't have the body weight to force somebody into a wall. He's 170 pounds. 170 pounds as a defenseman. Come on.
Yeah.
5'10", exactly. 170. He should be running track and field, in my opinion. But for $5 million, I personally don't like having Girard on that defensive end. He is a liability to me for this team as a defenseman. But like Kaiser was saying, he has great ice vision. He has great speed. He has great ability. I would love to see him play as a winger. Would absolutely love it. Granted, he might move down to a third or fourth line until he gets his legs underneath him and really understands his new position change. But I'd rather pay if Girard's going to stay on this team at $5 million a year for his contract, I'd rather that be in the form of a winger. I think it's just overpaying for a poor defensive standard, but for him. So that's where I see it. And it would free up. You move a couple of players because the whole thing is, how do we free up money for McDonald? You have to move somebody off the team or whatever for for that contract. And $5 million hit, especially with the cap space issues that the Avs are having. I would honestly trade Gerard, right now when I have the opportunity. But finding a team that's willing to eat 6 years of a contract is going to be hard pressed. So you would have to probably give up Gerard and a couple, a draft pick in exchange for biting a $3 million salary defenseman or something from another team.
Mm-hmm.
So lots to be considered there. I'm not exactly sure how the Avs are going to go about doing that, but they do need to go about doing it and going from there. But before we move on, let's talk a little bit of dry rub seasonings there, Greg. You ever had some Willow seasonings and blends?
I have, man. It's good stuff. This stuff
is amazing. This is a Colorado veteran-owned company that produces amazing rubs and seasonings for all your favorite foods, such as steaks, chicken wings, pork shoulders, corn on the cob, bell peppers, and more. From their feisty lion fajita seasoning, the high elevation salt, pepper, and garlic dry rub, which I've used on steak. It's absolutely amazing. The sweet heat barbecue seasoning I've used to air fry some wings, and the sweet smoke barbecue seasoning I've also used. All these amazing products will bring a game day impact to anything you want to grill or cook. Don't just take my word for it or Greg's. Get your taste buds in on the action today and check out Willow Seasonings website for retail locations or to order online at willowseasonings.com. And I do believe there is I forget the discount code because I didn't get it from David, but there is a discount code, I believe, for the month of November. We will post that on Rocky Mountain Sports Reports group page for anybody interested in placing an order for the holiday seasons. Standings.
Mm-hmm.
Current standings: Avalanche sitting 6th in the Central Division. St. Louis on a tear, 7-1-1. Winnipeg right behind them, 6-2-2. And Minnesota 6-3-0, all sit atop the Central Division playoff positions. Other than that, it's kind of a mess underneath. The Chicago Blackhawks are at 1-9-2. We'll get to them in a little bit later on a couple of different topics. Pacific Division, the Edmonton Oilers off to their best start in franchise history with a 9-1-0 start. If you did not see that game against the Rangers last night, you missed a doozy of a game. That game ended in a shootout, 6-5 Edmonton wins, or overtime, wasn't it? I think it was an overtime win. Yeah, it wasn't a shootout win, but 6-1 or 6-5 Edmonton in overtime. Connor McDavid doing nasty, stupid Connor McDavid stuff. Hate him for it, but you love him for it at the same time. Kaiser's right. Welcome to the Central Division, Arizona.
Glad you're here.
Glad you're here. You and Chicago can fight all you want.
Mm-hmm.
Calgary at 6-1-3. Anaheim kind of trudging along, 5-4-3, all sitting in the top 3 spots. But LA, Vegas, Seattle, and Vancouver in that order. Vancouver just can't figure out their goalie situation. Mm-hmm. They tried Braden Holtby last year, and that was a hot mess. So now he's in Dallas. And now they're going to Thatcher Demko, who's been with them for a while. Can't really figure out an answer there. Seattle's going to struggle. We saw that coming with their franchise draft, expansion draft, which was just – I'm still scratching my head over that stuff. I'm still trying to figure out the science behind it all, man.
Same.
Atlantic Division, Florida, off to a 9-0-1 start. Really hot start for them.
Woo!
Nicely done by Berkey again.
Second of the game.
Andre Burakovsky with a nice little backhander over the shoulder of Merzlikins. And we're just having a great time. Tampa 6-3-2. Toronto 6-4-1. Motorcycle going down the street. Buffalo, Boston, Detroit, Ottawa, and Montreal all bringing up the rear in the Atlantic Division. That was just a beautiful goal.
Mm-hmm. That was quite the backhand.
Checks Bean, poke checks, gets the puck, and just throws it up over the shoulder. That was just beautiful. Man, what can you say there? Metro Division, Carolina was seeking their first 10-0, seeking to go 10-0 tonight. I'm not sure where they stand in their game. I can check this out real quick for everybody. They were down 2-4. They are still down 2-4. 9:17 left to go in the third. Frederick Anderson gave up 4 goals in the first period on 15 shots. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully Carolina's going to try and force overtime, get 2 more goals, and a nice block, and hopefully try to get to 10-0 for the first time in franchise history, I believe. So we'll keep our eyes locked on that as well. New York Rangers 6-2-3, they're doing pretty good. And Washington 5-1-4. Philadelphia, Columbus, New York Islanders, Pittsburgh, and Jersey all trailing behind. New Jersey did get Mackenzie Blackwood back the other night. I picked him up in my fantasy hockey league, so hopefully he does me well. He is their number 1 starter, so hopefully he's back for good and does them well. Let's hop with the announcement of Washington sitting in 3rd place. Mm-hmm. Ovechkin watch, man. Are you enjoying this?
He's just nuts, man. Like, I'm convinced he's not human. Like, every time I see him play, I'm like, okay, there's no way. He's getting old. You know, the game's fat, blah, blah, blah. And here he comes and scores 2 goals. And it's like,
yeah,
what is happening? Yeah,
I go back to like an old ESPN like commercial with hockey. Ovi sitting in the copy machine, like trying to make copies and like talking to the machine. Is like, oh, you're not like a Russian spy or anything, are you? And it shows like the robot eye, and he's like, guys, I'm just Alex.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
this is back when Semyon Varlamov was still with the Washington Capitals, because he was the other player up on the roof. You know, right. That was close, and tosses him the rope.
Yep.
So.
That was good. That was such a fantastic commercial. And again, just what makes me so happy that hockey is back on ESPN, because they can just do some fun stuff with a sport that is so entertaining, so fun, can be just fantastic for a whole family as long as you're willing to get into it. It's going to grow the game, and it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy.
The game deserves to grow. It deserves more attention than what it gets. You know, and yeah, it's hard. 4 or 5 games a week compared to 1 game a week for football, stuff like that. I get it, but you're missing out not watching hockey if you're not watching hockey. But Ovechkin did score his 740th goal against the Florida Panthers on November 4th. He trails Brett Hull by 1 to tie for 4th in careers all time. Washington hosting Philadelphia tonight. That game is currently underway. And the Flyers are up 1-0, a goal by Brassard in the second period at 11:18. Capitals are trailing 1-0, 21-17 shots on goal in favor of Philadelphia there. So hopefully, Ovi can get on the board, and tie Brett Hull and eventually take over 4th place. Yeah. I forget where he stands in power play goals right now.
I said, did he? I'm trying to remember, because he was just behind.
He was 4 or 5 behind in NHL for an NHL career for most power play goals. Mm-hmm. See if I can find it real quick. He is 3 behind Dave Andrechuk for tying for first. He needs 4 to overtake him.
Good Lord. It's just insane. Absolutely insane. It's just the thing that drives me so nuts about it, and I know many people have brought it up and harp on it, and I'm one of those people. Man, 2 lockout seasons, a COVID shortened season, the COVID season of last year of 56 games. Like, could you imagine where he would be if we had all 82 games in all those seasons and not 2 lockout? Like, holy crap.
Oh my goodness. Like, just thinking about that.
Be there.
He would, okay, so he's 26 away from tying Jaromir Jagr, and 61 away from tying Gordie Howe. If you're talking 2 lockouts, 2 COVID shortened seasons, because the 2020 season, 2019-2020 season, I think there was another 10 games for most teams.
Yeah, 10 to 12 depending on
10 to 12 depending on where you were. So let's say 12 max. And then you had a 56 game season last year, down from 82. So there's another 26 games. So we're looking at 38 games right there, plus 2 lockout seasons, where one of them you only played 40 games. So there's another 42 games. So there's a whole season of games right there between 3 and then the other lockout. And then, yeah.
Yeah, 2 full seasons worth of potential goals that he could have. Let's say he doesn't even score a goal per game. Let's say he hits it like 75%. That's still
let's say
over 100 goals.
Let's say he averaged 48 goals in each of those 2 seasons. That's another 96 goals.
Yeah.
Right there. So 96 goals added to his current total would put him at 836.
Yeah, like I feel
he would only be 58 goals behind Wayne Gretzky. He would be sitting second right now.
Dude, I feel so bad for him. That's why I'm hoping he stays around to break it. I don't care if he ends up playing until he's 55. Like,
right? I like break it.
Yeah.
Even Wayne Gretzky is like, I want to see it happen. He's like, it's great for the game of hockey. It gets people interested in watching and seeing something happen that hasn't happened in ever.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just amazing. It's just amazing stuff to see. So I'm like, let's make it happen. I firmly want to see it happen, but like to think about 2 full seasons of hockey, 164 games, and saying he's getting 86 goals in 164 games. Guaranteed it's probably going to be more than that. But to just say, 48 goals a season or get 96 goals in 62 games is still mind-blowing. To think that he would be that much closer to Wayne Gretzky if they had played all those games.
Yeah.
I for one can't wait, and I got to find out when Washington's coming to town because I want to be at those games.
That's absolutely right.
Here's some great news for Carey Price fans. Carey Price did rejoin the Montreal Canadiens this past Monday on November 1st. He's working with team trainers and doctors to assess his ability before starting any games. He's been meeting with some representatives from the Players Association as far as getting some mental health stuff done and everything else. Took some personal time and has finally decided he's ready to come back and rejoin the hockey team and perhaps contribute to their success. He did have off-season knee surgery, so here's to hoping that Carey Price does return to Carey Price form and is able to finish his career on his terms.
Yeah. I got to say, I felt so bad when everything kind of happened. We were wondering what was going to go on with him during the offseason, with wondering if Seattle was going to pick him up, and then having them suddenly come out and say, oh, no, he's injured, he needs surgery, and being like, okay, where was this before, before the expansion draft really got ramping up? And then for him to finally go through surgery and to find out, okay, it's not a major injury. It's crazy to say that surgery isn't for a major injury, but it's not anything that knocked him out for 5-6 months. It was like
it was cartilage cleanup.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, good to see that he's all right there. And then for all of the mental health stuff to kick in and just really, really dominate his life and take him out of the game for as long as it has, it's just something that becomes so upsetting the more that, mental health is really looked at and understood and, properly diagnosed and talked about, in a way that's no longer considered taboo. It's no longer the world of, oh, just man up and get out there. It's the world of, we're here to help. We want to understand. We want to do better. And it's incredible to see. But man, the more that you hear these stories about what players are going through, the more it just, if you've got a heart, it rips it out of you and just shows it to you,
Oh, especially if it's a player from your own team. The Avalanche recently went through this with a fan favorite. I can't recall his name right off the bat. Retired a couple years ago from the NHL because he was dealing with mental health issues.
Colin Wilson.
Thank you. Colin Wilson was dealing with some mental health issues, some suicidal thoughts and ideations, a drug addiction, opioid addiction, and stuff like that, I believe is what it was.
Yeah.
He came out. He came forward and told everybody his story and everything. He's like, I thank the Avalanche for what they did and what they did to help me, for them allowing me the opportunity to go and help myself and everything else. Such an amazing story. Colin Wilson's story was. He still is involved in hockey, I believe, down in Texas with like some minor league or high school level stuff. But his focus is now to open up a clinic and a place where hockey players of all levels can go to get mental health assistance and assistance with addictions and stuff like that. So an amazing process that Colin Wilson went through to get to that. But you're right. It's great to see the NHL, not just the NHL, but other professional organizations, being like, all right, mental health is really something we really need to focus on. We put a lot of pressure and stress on our players to perform, and the fans put a lot of pressure and stress on them to perform. And that can eat at a player if you're not meeting somebody's expectations, especially your own. But to not meet the fan expectations and then to, get off the field or off the ice, whatever it is, and have them yell and scream and shout and boo at you in just derogatory terms all the time, it'll eat away at you. So, again, glad to see players like Colin Wilson and Carey Price getting the help they need and those things being addressed. Last Saturday, we were not on. Big breaking news happened last Saturday. Last Friday, October 29th of 21, Joel Quenneville resigned as the head coach of the Florida Panthers due to an ongoing investigation with the Chicago Blackhawks in the sexual assault accusations presented by the John Doe at the time, which turned out to be Kyle Beach when he was with the Chicago Blackhawks in their minor league system back in 2010. I read the story. I read the report. It's very eye-opening. And a lot of people were like, well, he was a grown man. I was like, he was 20 years old at the time, 19, 20 years old. In the eyes of a hockey player, you're a teenager as a hockey player at 20 years old. And it's weird to say that, but most hockey players don't get to their prime years until 27, 28. And to break into the NHL at any level is tough enough as it is. But I believe Kyle Beach was with their minor league affiliate at the time when this occurred.
So he had been brought up during the playoffs. He was
That's
with the Black Aces, so that he could be of use if anybody were to go down during the playoffs.
Yeah. Accused a then video assistant coach of, I believe, attempting to share a bed and grope him.
It was a lot. It was
among other things.
Definitely nothing that we can say on air for sure. It's I was in the same boat. I read the report. It's 107 pages. It was absolutely mind-boggling and very disturbing. Definitely something that, if if you want to know, Google it. It's everywhere now.
It's available to the public for you guys to read.
But it just, and bottom line to me, regardless of what anybody says about who it was or position he was in, it should never happen to anybody. That's the bottom line. It should never ever happen to anybody, and that's where it should end. If there's anybody trying to make exceptions for it or poo-poo it for whatever reason, no, it should never happen to anybody. Bottom line. And the fact that it happened in a position that it did, in a way that, when you really start to look into what happened after the fact because of it, this dude's he had his career destroyed because of it, because he did what everybody is taught to do. I mean, it got brought up all the time of, oh, well, what about, safe sport? And for anybody who doesn't know, for USA Hockey, for I guess for professional sports, I didn't realize that they actually used it. There's what's called safe sport, which tells you about conduct, which tells you about how to do things properly, where to go if something happens, all that type of stuff. And he did it. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He brought it up. He said, he talked to the higher ups. It went all the way up the chain of command. He did what he was supposed to do and ended up essentially losing his career for it. And that's just, it's gross. It's predatory. It's everything that's wrong with people in power. And Yeah, again, if you want to check, if you want to see the report, Google it.
Yeah.
I recommend knowing. I also recommend preparing yourself, because I have a very open mind. I'm very, I I've seen things, done things, all that type of stuff. It still hit me pretty hard.
Yeah.
It's something that you got to prepare
It's
yourself for. And
it's tough to read in general, and people sit there and look, well, why was Joe Quenneville investigated? Why was he fired?
Mhm.
He is the final line. He is the head coach. Majority of the times when you bring in a head coach, somebody, especially with Joe Quenneville's reputation to be a winning coach, they have won multiple Stanley Cups in his tenure there in Chicago. In 2010 was one of the years they did win the cup. It gets brought up. Kyle Beach did everything he was supposed to do. It got brought up. The reports kind of paint Quenneville in a weird way, saying he was more focused on what was in front of him with the Stanley Cup, winning the Stanley Cup, because I think they were getting ready to go into the finals at this point in time.
Right.
So
it was an hour after they had won the game to secure their place in the finals was when
this was brought to
the initial assault
attention.
was reported to everybody and was made known. And yeah, the fact that he put winning above his players' safety and above his players' well-being, that's where the issue is, and that's what brought this to.
So the question I have for you in regards to that is, at the time, Mr. Beach, Kyle was brought up as a security blanket for an injury. What if this had been a more prominent player on the Blackhawks team? Is it taken more serious then? Are we addressing this issue 11 years down the road?
Right. And that's what makes this so interesting to really think about. Because, when we hear this, we hear the name Kyle Beach. None of us really know him. We have to Google this, find out what happened. He was an 11th overall pick for Chicago. We're not talking about some scrub. We're not talking about some dude that...
You're talking about a perennial elite athlete that the Blackhawks are like, we're going to build our future around.
Right. Yeah. You're talking about someone who given the opportunity to grow and develop, could have become a phenomenal player at the NHL level, and was not given that opportunity because of this. So it's really interesting to think about it in that way, that, had it been like a Brent Seabrook, had it been and I wouldn't say, Jonathan Taves or Patrick Kane, I feel like that would come out immediately. Something would have happened, but
Duncan Keith.
Right. Yeah. If it was someone who was actually like on the roster in more of a spot than like you say, just kind of a security blanket, it's horrible to say. I hope it would have. I really hope that it would have been something that kind of, caught the eye of more people and was brought into the public a lot quicker than it ended up being. But, at the same time, I don't know. And that kind of makes it even worse that, that's the way that we're looking at it. That's kind of how these cases happen, that we do look at it a way of like, oh man, if this was a bigger name, would it have meant, would it have been a bigger deal? And it's like, that sucks to think about.
I hate to think that it would take that in order for it to be, addressed sooner. But we're gonna move on. I will say this: Joe Quenneville did talk with Gary Bettman about the issue and tendered his resignation with the Panthers. NHL did release a statement saying that he did resign, and that if Quenneville was to come back to the NHL level and participate in any manner, there would possibly be some suspensions or some fines or something along those lines in regards to this 2010 issue. From what I understand, that there's still some investigations going on. There should most likely will be some court proceedings or some settlements taken care of out of court, whatever may happen. You can Google the news. You can Google this article and follow it along if you would like. It isn't something we're going to harp on going forward. We might chat about it off air just because we're keeping tabs on it ourselves, but we're not going to harp on it again and again and again. There should be a clear investigation. Charges or whatever may come up, but we'll keep that. We'll watch it ourselves for our own interests. If you guys want to watch it or follow along with it, feel free to do so. Just not within the crease covering it.
Right. Especially because the big thing with me is there are some fantastic voices that have a hold of this and have investigated it to an nth degree that we just simply cannot. And I don't want to kind of drown it out or anything. Go follow the people.
Follow those people. They are posting updates as they get them constantly in regards to this investigation. I, for one, keep my eye on it, just because I want to know what the proceedings are and how the NHL is going to address these type of allegations moving forward. And this isn't just hockey that this stuff is happening in. There's currently a stuff going on with the U.S. gymnastics team. There's stuff going on in football with allegations and stuff too. So this is happening in sports worldwide. It doesn't matter what the sport is. So I just can't believe it took 11 years for this news to come to light.
Yeah, no kidding.
In other Chicago Blackhawk news, we're going to touch this real quick. Earlier today, Jeremy Colleton was dismissed as the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks after 1-9-2 start to the season. This isn't what Chicago needs.
But if they need anything else, this isn't it.
This isn't what they need. But we talked about this off air, Greg, is I believe this is a direct result of the trade that happened in the offseason for Chicago in the acquisition of Marc-Andre Fleury, who is a Hall of Fame perennial goaltender, one of the greatest of all time of this generation. You can't have a 1-9-2 start with somebody like Marc-Andre Fleury in your net. Right. Something's got to change, and it's not the goalie.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah, you're telling me that the Vezina winner last season is the problem? Nah.
No.
Yeah, and like you say, man, this is the last thing Chicago needs with everything that's going on off the ice. Like the on the ice needs to be the thing they can hopefully take away from it, and it's not. Unfortunately, it's kind of adding to just a rough situation for the city and the fans of Chicago. And you're absolutely right. Something had to happen, and for Colleton to get dismissed, I feel was the right call, because you're exactly right. You can't take an off season where you trade for the Vezina winner, where you bring in talent like Seth Jones. You bring in players who are meant to be a win it now, kind of system and team, and come off to this kind of start.
I do believe I will throw a tiny grain of salt to add some flavor to it. Mm-hmm. I do believe Chicago has been dealing with some COVID issues, and some of their bigger names have been hit here and there with the COVID, quarantine, stuff like that. So that is also contributing to the 1-9-2 record. But as a team, the chemistry has to be there. Something's off. And the GM's going to look where he can look, and that place is going to be with the head coach. Didn't mean to cut you off there, but
no, you're good. You're good. I think you're absolutely. Yeah, I believe I remember seeing they lost Taves and Patrick Kane to COVID.
Yeah,
at one point during the season. So yeah, issues abound for Chicago.
And it just continues to just baffle my mind. Like when I heard the news that Marc-Andre Fleury was traded to Chicago, I was like, well, shit, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I only had to worry about, Dallas and St. Louis and potentially Minnesota. But then Marc-Andre Fleury leaves Vegas and comes to Chicago against his own, because he didn't want to come here, but now he is. I'm like, great. Now we have to deal with him. And now Chicago's in my mind, Chicago was a perennial playoff team with the acquisition of him and Seth Jones. So I was like, great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like, above all the teams that are doing really well, I feel like the surprise really has to be how badly they're doing with, just with all the moves that they made this offseason and just with the players that they still have there. They've still got Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane, Kirby Dach, Alex DeBrincat. On paper, that is a terrifying team.
This is a terrifying team, yeah.
In reality, they haven't done a damn thing.
So, and that's gonna be a question. Is when the trade deadline comes up, I was like, are the Chicago are the Chicago Blackhawks still as bad as they appear to be, or are they going to turn it around and be fighting for a wild card spot or even one of the top spots in the division? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But it'll definitely have an impact come the trade deadline, depending on what their record is, especially with the amount of talent that they have. Because I know several teams are going to be calling and be like, hey, Jonathan Toews looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll bet he wants to win another cup, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a lot of that going on. And Chicago could be one of those teams that people keep calling and give them a bunch of draft picks and be like, let's do this.
Right. And that's what's going to be really interesting with this change at the top is what does that then do for the culture of it? Obviously we're going to have to see, that's a guarantee. We're going to have to see if they suddenly turn something around, start winning some games. But if not, does that mean that the culture then becomes, all right, we're essentially the stopping point for everybody to go to contenders, or are they going to double down and in a lot of ways kind of pull a Broncos and keep trying to just put a Band-Aid on a bullet hole and say, oh no, it's fine, we'll figure it out, we just need one more piece.
It's not a rebuild, it's a rebrand. Whatever.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to call it that, be my guest. You guys are idiots.
Right.
But I firmly believe Chicago will turn it around. They'll figure something out. I forget who they named their interim head coach. I think it was just their bench coach guy.
Yeah, so it was one of the assistants. I don't remember who it was.
So it's somebody familiar with most of the team. So most of the chemistry is not going to get disrupted there, and they'll continue to try to grow and get better. Flyers and Capitals end of 2. Ovechkin watch. Washington's not on the board. It's 2-0 at the end of 2 there. Avalanche going to the end of the second, going to the second intermission, up 2-1 on that Burakovsky goal at 13:16 of the second period. They will have I think like a minute and a half on the power play moving forward. And just so you know, Greg, Kaiser was right. Arizona's getting creamed, dude. They haven't played yet tonight. They play at 10 p.m. Eastern, so they start hearing about an hour and 10 minutes or so. They are 0-10-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not looking good. Not looking good. For as bad as Chicago's doing, thankfully they look back and say, well, at least we're not Arizona. Right?
Well, at least we're not those guys.
Yeah. But I do want to bring this up because I just looked this up and I didn't realize this. This is actually really interesting. So the Blackhawks actually relieved head coach Jeremy Colleton and the assistant coaches Thomas Meidel and Sheldon Brookbank. So their interim head coach is actually the former head coach for the Rockford IceHawks, Derek King.
Wow, so they're cleaning house.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
That is big. It doesn't happen very often that a head coach and both assistant coaches are dismissed from a team. So that's incredible to hear that information. Chicago is really cleaning house and trying to shake things up and do something. Otherwise, Marc-Andre Fleury could be on the move come the trade deadline.
It's a possibility.
Hey, come to Colorado.
Boy,
tell me you wouldn't go buy a jersey.
That would be the duo, man. Fleury and Kemper. Holy moly. I don't know how you afford that, but man, would that be fun.
I will give you a first-round draft pick if you retain his salary.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chicago would jump at that. Looking around the league points-wise, Carolina sits atop the Metro with 18 points. Like I said, New Jersey's at the bottom with 10, but they are getting their starting goaltender back, so hopefully things will turn around for them there. Florida, Tampa Bay, and Toronto, top of the Atlantic. Montreal is getting Carey Price back. He is not yet listed as a starter for them yet, but hopefully he gets back within the next month or so for them. St. Louis Blues are at 15 points in our own Central Division, followed by Winnipeg and Minnesota. Nashville and Dallas are ahead of us. Colorado sits with 9 points in 6th, but should start climbing here shortly. and getting things back into their winning ways. Edmonton is enjoying the view from the top of the Pacific. Don't get your hopes up, though. Oilers typically flame out some point around, I don't know, playoffs.
Right.
So something to keep an eye on there. Calgary's right on their tails. They just named, was it Braden Tkachuk, their captain?
That was for Ottawa.
For Ottawa, yes.
Yeah.
But another Tkachuk getting the captain spot somewhere. But he's, the Ottawa Senators are sitting 7th in their division. So a lot to go through there. And Anaheim, that's a surprise for me. See Anaheim and doing so well right there. San Jose and Los Angeles 4th and 5th. Los Angeles is. I was so hopeful for Quentin Byfield to be on the ice, and it's just been injury after injury and inconsistency for this individual.
Right.
For as high a draft pick as he was, I think second overall,
Right.
and he's. I feel bad for Adam Foote out there in LA.
Yeah.
As a GM, I was like, you draft a young African American athlete, second overall, the highest for an African American player in NHL history, and he looks great on film at the college level and the minor levels. He just can't crack this roster due to injuries and inconsistency.
Right.
Do you potentially see this being similar to, say, like a Valeri Nichushkin?
It's definitely possible. It could be. Holy cow, my camera just really blew out there. It's definitely possible, and it'd be interesting to see that happening down the line. But I feel like more than anything, it's just simply going to take him really taking the time to heal, because the problem you run into when you're at that age, and I believe he's still only 19 at this point.
Yeah, he's pretty young.
The issue that you have, and I don't know if you can relate, I certainly could at that age. You get injured and you heal like that, or at least you think you do.
And then you want to get back out there as soon as possible.
Exactly. And especially when you're trying to make a name for yourself, you're trying to like you say, break this roster. You're doing everything you can to say, oh no, I'm fine, let me out there. And you're not really fine. What's really going to help him is if he truly takes the time to heal. Listen to your health coaches, listen to your nutrition coaches, listen to everybody that's there to help you, but take your time. And that's a problem that I feel like we see a lot, especially in this league, because of how young everybody is. You run into that teenage hot-headedness of, I could break a leg and still be fine. And it ends up backfiring and really not helping the players. And that's, and I kind of feel like that's what we saw with Byram last season, which is kind of why it is a blessing and a curse. Obviously, it would have been very nice to have him in the playoffs, but having him take a lot of the season and then the whole off season to truly heal, truly get back to 100%. Now we're seeing what he can do. I feel like if that's what Byfield can finally get going, is true healing and getting back to 100%, he could really still take off. And, the thing that is on his side is he's only 19. He could take a couple years to really get there, come out at 21 years old and just tear this league up.
Which we all hope to see. I mean, I really hope to see this kid shine. I really like what I saw out of his film when he was drafted and everything. So hoping for the best. And the last bit of news I want to touch on, I didn't list it up here, but Eichel got out of Buffalo, everybody.
Yeah.
Eichel is now a Vegas Golden Knight. They traded Alex Tuch and a handful of draft picks to the Buffalo Sabres in order to secure Jack Eichel as a black and gold member of the Las Vegas Golden Knights. He is still out. He's dealing with a significant injury, undergoing surgery. His timetable for return is in about 4.5 months. But you're talking about holding on to but yeah, he's going to be a piece to watch moving forward, right, and immediately contribute to that team. He is
100%. I mean, it was funny hearing people talk about it like, oh, he's not really all that good. We're talking about one of the best centers in the entire league. Like, you cannot tell me he's not in the top 5 centers. Obviously when he's healthy. Clearly, a neck injury, he can't do it right now. But yeah, like that just made Vegas so damn spooky once he's back, once everybody is healthy.
You secure at least 4.5 years of hockey out of him with Las Vegas. He's getting paid $10 million a year, which is a lot. But they traded him this year. You had to trade him because he had a no movement clause starting next year for the rest of his contract. So, and it's going to be huge. I can't wait to see what Vegas is going to lose with signing him, because not only is it a $10 million cap hit for him each year, he also has a $7.5 million signing bonus that takes effect next year too. The second part, his second signing bonus, a part of his contract. And with that no movement clause, he's locked in for 4 years. He gets to say, if Vegas is like, oh yeah, well, we screwed up, we want to get rid of you, he's like, you got to let me know who you're trying to trade me to first if you want to get rid of me. So, I mean, that's just a lot of money. And you're telling me people wanted Eichel to come here, Colorado, for 10 mil?
Yeah.
I don't think I would bite that bullet. I get it. Same thing with Taylor Hall in Boston, but Taylor Hall is actually blooming in Boston. I mean, it's just fantastic to see. But like you said, this instantly makes Vegas like a perennial, like Pacific Division, winner for the next 4 or 5 years easily. The only people who could potentially challenge that would be Edmonton or Calgary right now, depending on how they play, because I have no faith in maybe San Jose. San Jose usually finds a way to retool every now and then, but we'll leave it at that. But I just want to squeeze that in there. Jack Eichel is now officially a Vegas Golden Knight. Blew my mind when I saw the trade come across, Greg. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, same. I was hoping that something would happen soon. I felt insanely bad for the dude because staying in Buffalo, they weren't even allowing him to get his surgery. And it's like, how the hell do you control someone's health like that?
Right. That's absurd, man.
That's absolutely monstrous. But
I think that was them just trying to, they didn't want him to get his surgery because if he was injured, he didn't earn the full 10 million of his contract. Maybe there's like a sub clause in his contract to do with injuries.
Right.
And if he was on the IR, he couldn't get paid his full contract or something, or his full salary that season or whatever. So if that's the way to do it, then I look at the Buffalo organization. I'm like, that's a bull move, man. I don't like that.
Same. Yeah, I'm sure there was behind the scenes stuff that we don't get to know, but regardless, the dude needed surgery. The dude has a massive neck injury that needed to be fixed, and we were just talking about mental health and like opioid and drug addictions and stuff like that. And if you got this, neck injuries aren't something to mess around with. No,
those hurt. So you're gonna screw somebody like that. Buffalo, I don't like you right now.
Yeah,
I don't think I really liked you ever, but another story, another day. But that's going to do it for us here on the In the Crease show this weekend. I think we're not going to be on next Saturday. I am off to World's Toughest Mudder in Laughlin, Nevada, not Las Vegas, Nevada. But I definitely will not be on next week because I will be helping some friends run this crazy 24-hour race in the middle of the desert somewhere. And hopefully, it's not as terrible as it could be. Pretty sure. So, Greg, if you decide to go next week, by all means do it. Otherwise, I will be back in 2 weeks and we'll do a show then. I think what we'll do is we'll probably cover every 2 weeks. Gives us enough time to pull out a bunch of content and go from there.
Yeah. I would definitely like to get into the weekly once schedules work out that way. But yeah, I actually won't be on next Saturday either. I'll be at the game against the San Jose Sharks. So unless I do it from my phone in my seat and trying to scream and yell, and it just wouldn't work out well.
All right.
But yeah.
So next week we will be taking another week off. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks with In the Crease coverage, moving, and then hopefully once we get our schedules figured out, we'll go to our weekly show like we want to do. Until then, we're gonna say adios, goodbye, have a great time. Finish watching the Avs in the third period. About 14 minutes left in that one. Thank you guys for taking the time to join us and enjoy the show. We look forward to seeing you guys on another awesome edition of In the Crease. Until then, be safe, be good people, enjoy this November, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.